Hello and welcome to the Watch Kaki channel, where we bring you all the good and honest watch reviews. In today's video, we are going to take a look at this pretty unusual looking watch. This is the Casio Calculator Watch. The reference number is DBC-32, and as the name implies, this watch doubles up as a calculator because it's got a keypad here for you to do all the calculating functions, and I must say it looks pretty unusual. So this watch actually caught my attention because I've been watching the Netflix series Money Heist or La Casa Papel. So the character Nairobi, she wore this watch during the first heist of the mint, the Royal Mint. So this one got my attention and I did some searching and I found that this is the closest watch. I have no confirmation that this is the exact watch model, but it does look very much like it. And here's a screenshot of Money Heist, in which the character Nairobi, as played by actress Alba Flores, is wearing a watch that looks like the Casio DBC-32. So from now, I'm just going to call this watch the Nairobi watch because, well, she wore it in the show. So I'm not going to give you the exact dimensions of this watch because it means very little. The watch has got a very unusual watch case. As you can see, it's not round, rectangular or anything like that. Even on the case back, it's got a flat case back here, and then it slopes downwards here at what is traditionally the 6 o'clock area, but of course there's no 6 o'clock area on this digital watch, so I think it's quite useless or pointless to give you the dimensions. But what I can tell you is the display screen area is about 25 millimeters across and 17 millimeters from top to bottom. The watch does have a lug width of 22 millimeters, so if you are fond of changing straps or you want to go with a rubber strap or leather strap, it actually works, but I think it's best to just leave it on the stock bracelet. So let's go on and talk about the build and construction of this watch. This watch here has an all plastic case. Alright, so this part here, it looks like metal. It's painted to look like metal, but it is actually plastic. You can actually see the mold line here, and there's nothing to shout about really. The watch feels very light and very cheap. I weighed on the digital scale. I think this is under 60 grams. Very comfortable bracelet, watch case, everything in, and it still weighs less than 60 grams. So it's got a plastic case, but the bracelet material is steel, stainless steel, but it is folded. Alright, take a look here. The links here, they are made of folded stainless steel. They're not even stamped, they're just folded. And again, this makes the watch feel really light. Even the clasp here, the clasp is actually like the lowest quality you can find on a watch. It is stamped, folded, and there really isn't very much quality to talk about here. And interestingly, the watch has got a 10-year battery, so it's one of those things that may last longer than the user. 10-year battery, many things can happen in 10 years. So since the watch case is full plastic, so I'd like to bring to your attention that if you're a fan of strap changing, it may not work very well on this watch because you might damage the lug area because this part is still made of plastic. So if you were to keep changing straps, maybe after a few rounds you may just widen the strap hole or something like that. So it's not really a good idea. So as I mentioned, the build quality of this watch, there's nothing to shout about. Everything is plastic. The buttons are plastic, and the buttons here, they are very nicely laid out in a matte finish plastic, and I really find the buttons way too small. I don't have very big hands, but even then I find some difficulties in pressing the buttons. I'm going to show you the operation in just a while. I must say that the display of the DBC-32 is really nice, very pleasing to look at. All the information is laid out very clearly. You've got day of the week here, 3 letters printed or displayed, and this is the time. It's 8:30, year, month, day of the month, and of course this is the seconds that is ticking away as I speak. So I would say the display is really nice. And now I'll do a quick run through of the watch functions. Of course, this is the timekeeping mode, and as I toggle, the first mode that you're entering is the data bank mode. So I assume you're supposed to key in your friend's address or telephone number over here, which I'm not going to bother myself with all these little tiny buttons. The next one is the calculator button, which is what it is. This is the calculator watch, so let's give it a shot. So I'm going to do this 78 multiply by 259 is equal to the answer. So again, I'm not going to use the calculator function because most of the time I'll just take out my iPhone and that's it. I guess this is more like a novelty or conversation piece, so you can have the cool calculator function as you tell the time. So the time here is still running and you can use the calculator function. That's pretty cool. So the next function is the alarm, which allows you to set, I think, more than 5 alarms. And then we've got the stopwatch, which is quite handy. So I activate the stopwatch here, and then to reset, I think I need to press this button. Alright, so it's a pretty handy function if you need to time your runs, or you know how much time it takes to reach the bus stop. And after the stopwatch function, we've got the dual time function. So I think this is like a world time, but you need to preset the second time zone. And if I'm not wrong, this one here on display 11:20, I think this is GMT time, and we're looking at GMT plus 8 or plus 7 here. So hence this is the second time zone. So you need to preset the second time zone. It's not like a world time function when you can toggle like many G-Shocks you have. So one thing that I like to bring to your attention is that this watch actually very cleverly goes back to time keeping mode when you finish using the calculator function or stopwatch function. Let's take a look at this example. So I'm using the calculator function. Let me just do something very random and quick. So 5 multiplied by 6. Alright, so once I get the answer, when I press the mode button, it goes straight back to timekeeping and it doesn't toggle to the next function. But if you take a look in terms of order, after calculator it's alarm, or after stopwatch it is dual time. Alright, so let's just try the stopwatch again. So I'm going to set the stopwatch running, and let's say I finish using the stopwatch. When I reset time and I press the mode button, it goes straight back to timekeeping. That's a pretty clever feature by Casio. And as you can see, this watch here has got illuminator function, so I'm just gonna switch off the lights and try and see how bright the illuminator function is. Alright, I've just switched off all my studio lights, and here I'm going to check out the illuminator function. Let's see how bright the illuminator is. I'm gonna press the button here, and oh, it's one of those orangey, vintagey looking kind of warm light illuminator. Pretty good for the retro theme going on. I would say it does the job pretty well. Nothing to shout about, and it does give it a retro touch. And now let's have a look at the wrist shot of the watch on my wrist. This watch wears very comfortable because it's so light. It's like under 60 grams. So the bracelet also tapers down all the way to 16 millimeters at the clasp. So I would say no problems at all. Pretty good for a woman as well because it's not heavy, and if you resize the bracelet, you can actually remove many links and it will fit wrist to say as small as 6 inches. No problems at all. So to sum things up, I would say this watch is really designed for the nerd, for the geek, and for someone who wants something different, more or less a conversation piece. I seriously doubt anyone would use the calculator function here because the buttons are just way too small, and these days everyone can just whip out their phones and you've got a good calculator function going on out there. So most likely all these small little buttons here, the calculator function, is just for conversation starter and something to make you look cool and funky, and that's about it. It's a really affordable watch, and I got this for about under 40 Singapore dollars, and I think I've never really had a watch of this quality. We're talking about really low quality build here. The bracelet is just, I don't know, it's just cheap metal folded, and the watch case is all plastic. And seriously, I have a lot of doubts about changing straps because I'm afraid that you will ruin the strap hole here. So I don't think it's a good idea to keep changing straps on this one, but I would say it's good for the money because it is pretty cool and something unusual in your collection. In all honesty, I think it would be pretty cool if Casio decides to roll out a high-end version of this watch that is to use full stainless steel and quality materials, I think there will be a following for such a design. After all, watches like Ventura or Hamilton, you know, they've got weird designs going on, and I think these watches seem to have a good following as well. Speaking of Ventura watches, I honestly think this watch reminds me of the Ventura Sigma that Nicolas Cage wore in his movie Bangkok Dangerous. Take a look here, it's got this curve going on, it slopes downwards, and I think the Sigma actually slopes downwards the other way. So this one here bears a slight resemblance to that watch for like a small amount of the money you will pay for a Ventura Sigma. So if you like this video, if you like this watch, please subscribe to my channel, come back more often. I've got video reviews uploaded every week. I'll see you next week. Bye bye. So this watch actually caught my attention because I've been watching the Netflix series Money Heist, La Papel Caselle, La Caselle Papel, La Caselle, I don't know what it is. Oh partigiano, portami via. Oh bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. Oh partigiano, portami via. Che mi sento di morire. Haha.